In this video, we are going to focus on how do you solve rational equations. Now these are the funky equations that have lots of fractions, which y'all love. And the great thing about these fractions is, even better than our linears with fractions, we have variables in the denominator. Yay, yippee skippy, right? Most of you would say no. And that's okay. I understand that most of you say no. But let's talk about the techniques, okay? The first thing you want to do is identify the domain of your equation. Think about what x cannot equal. Okay, that's important to keep in mind because if I end up with a solution that is going to cause an issue, it's got to be excluded. All right, well, we'll keep that in mind. Then after we identify the domain and keep that in the back of our head through the solution process, we are going to eliminate all of our denominators. And we're going to eliminate our denominators by multiplying the entire equation by the least common denominator. Okay, so let's start with this example. Let's think to ourselves, what would cause issues with the denominator here? What would generate a 0 in this denominator here? Well, that would happen when x is equal to 0. So we can say x cannot equal 0. So we check that in all denominators where there's a variable. Over here, we have the same issue. We would only have an issue in this denominator when x is equal to 0. So x can't equal 0. That's the only restriction on our domain. All right, so now, like we've said before, the fractions crash this party. We don't want them here. So we're going to politely ask them to leave by multiplying the entire fraction by the LCD, least common denominator. So I'm looking at what is the LCD of x, 2x, and 4. Okay, well, some of you, it would help to just look at the numbers first. What is the least common denominator for just 2 and 4? Well, we know that to be 4. But we have an x in here too, so we say our least common denominator of everything is 4x. Now, if I take each piece of this equation and multiply it by 4x, I'll see that our fractions, that's exactly what you want. Okay, so I'm going to take 4x and multiply it by 2 divided by x. And then I'm going to add that to 4x times 3. And that is equal to 4x times 5 divided by 2 over x. Plus 4x times 13 over 4. Notice I took 4x and multiplied it by each piece of that equation. Now, as we do this, we will see that things cancel out, and it's very, very easy to handle. This x and this x cancel out, right? So we can say that this is really 4 times 2, aka 8. 4x times 3, nothing cancels out there, but that's easy enough. That's 8 plus 12x is equal to 4x divided by 2x. Well, we know that x's cancel, right? And what is 4 divided by 2? That's the same as 2. So this is just 2 times 5, also known as 10. And here we have the 4's canceling. So we end up with plus 13x. Now we have a linear equation, which is fairly easy to solve. Let's subtract our 12x from both sides. Let's subtract our 10 from both sides. And we end up with negative 2 is equal to x, or x is equal to negative 2. Now, what was that domain restriction we said? x can't equal 0. Well, that's okay because we never said x was equal to 0. So we're all good here, and we will say our solution set is -2. Always a good idea to go ahead and sub it back in and verify that your solution works. So if I did that, I'd have 2 over -2, or -1 plus 3. Left-hand side is equal to 2. 5 over -4, so -5/4 plus 13/4, or -5/4 plus 13/4 is 8/4, also known as 2. So left-hand side is 2, right-hand side is 2. We look good. If you don't like doing it in your head, calculator is fine to check your answers. All right, let's check this one. Let's first consider our domain. What would cause problems here? Well, we would only run into problems if x was equal to 4. So we are going to say x cannot equal 4. How about here? Well, we would run into issues if x equaled -2, so we'll say x can't equal -2. Well, what about here? This is a little bit different, but I might recognize this in its factored form of x minus 4 times x plus 2. Okay, well, I have the same factors here. They're going to be zeros with the same values here, so these are the only restrictions on my domain. So now, thinking about my LCD, this is a little more tricky than that one. But let's digress for a second. Let's go back to this idea. If I had 2/3 plus 4/5 equals something over, or let's say 2x over 15. What is the least common denominator here? Well, 3 is a factor of 15. 5 is a factor of 15, so 15 is our least common denominator. The same thing is happening here, except that it's happening with expressions. This is a factor of this thing, this is a factor of this thing. So our LCD is going to be this thing. And we're going to multiply each piece of this equation by our LCD. Okay, so let's proceed to do that. Let's take this LCD, x minus 4 times x plus 2, and multiply it by the first piece, 1 over x minus 4. Then I've got a minus sign, I keep it. Multiply x minus 4 times x plus 2 times the second piece, 5 over x plus 2. And we say that this is equal to, tired of writing, x minus 4 times x plus 2 times 6 over x minus 4 times x plus 2. Okay, so now I'm ready to multiply this through. And I notice that many things are going to cancel out. Great. X minus 4 and x minus 4 right there. So this is just 1 times x plus 2, or x plus 2, minus. Now here I've got x plus 2 and x plus 2 canceling out. So minus 5 times x minus 4. Important to keep this 5 with the negative, and we're going to distribute that -5 through, is equal to, oh, this is great, x minus 4 cancels, x plus 2 cancels, and I'm left with just 6. So this doesn't end up being so bad when I get it to this point. Let's go ahead and distribute the -5 through. X plus 2 minus 5x plus 20 is equal to 6. Okay, so collect my like terms. I've got -4x, right, on this side. I have 22 on this side, but I'm going to shift it to the other side by subtracting it. So minus 22, positive 6. I think that that is 16. Except, I'm sorry, negative 16, right? Okay, so -4x minus is equal to -16, so x would equal +4. And then I need to remember what my domain restrictions are. Back at the beginning I said, well, x can't equal 4 or negative 2, but here I got a solution that it looks like is excluded. So what does that mean? This means this is called an extraneous solution, and there is no real solution. So my answer is no solution, or the null set. Okay, see you next time.